And today we have one of KPFT's own as a guest. Please welcome the one and only Egberto Willies, host of Politics Done Right and a member of the Coffee Party. And last week at the Democratic National Convention as a delegate for Bernie Sanders.
Yes, thank you for having me. And you know, it sounded kind of cute. You said the one and only. So, wow, you mean somebody call me the one and only?
We do.
We feel like that about
Oh,
you,
okay.
though, right?
Wow, okay.
Because you always have such a great spin, and you're so polite to your guests, you're polite to the listeners. Everybody has an opinion with you, and you let everybody say them. And you know that doesn't always happen on talk radio.
I have to thank Coffee Party for that, though.
Really, did they teach you that?
Yes, we actually are intentional in the way we do that. We believe that you have to have a conversation, and to have a conversation, everybody has to be listened to, and everybody has the opportunity to speak.
I think that's part of the problem that's missing in all of our democratic processes right now is not only the ability to speak, but the ability to have other people sit there and listen to you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I mean, you know, personally, I like it over coffee, so that works for me. I'm not endorsing any particular party. I'm just saying I like the way that works.
Yeah, you know, so that's what I believe, and I think that in the long run, that is where we're moving to. And I think people are going to eventually get tired of all the hyperventilation, and people are going to see that that doesn't really take us anywhere, and that we finally have to sit down and listen to each other. And when we start listening to each other and get the Trumps out of the way that just want to blast each other, I think then things will ultimately get better.
Well, and it also seems to me that you're embracing all media. You're one of our hosts who actually does do live streams on Facebook, and you're always posting videos of your shows. You're always out there trying to get the opinion of everyone.
I think that is important, right? I mean, we are consuming information in a lot of different ways now. The big networks don't have all the people anymore. So I think as programmers, independent programmers out here, I think we owe it to the listeners to bring it in all the forms that they're, you know, in which they're able to consume it. And by doing that, I think we actually increase our reach, and we reduce the power of, you know what I like to talk about, the plutocracy and the corporatocracy. Right. If we have a lot more avenues out there for people to get our message, then we can really be more influential, more impactful in what we're doing.
Well, you know, you got to the DNC.
Yes.
I mean, and that by it was not that easy either.
No, it was not. I have to thank the people. First of all, I got to the DNC through many different methods, or there are a lot of things that got me there. First of all, I have to thank those folks in Kingwood and the other counties that voted for me, that gave me the ability to go. So thank you guys. If any of you are listening out there,
percolators.
You guys are the ones who did it. I thank you. And then secondly, as you know, it's extremely expensive to go to the DNC, very expensive. And again, the folks around the country that read the blogs, including some of the folks out there right here in town, they actually sponsored me with a GoFundMe to get it out there, and we raised enough not only for the DNC but for the Netroots Nation trip that I took for a few weeks ago, as well as the Coffee Party trip that's down. So I mean, we have to be thankful for people who are willing to support those out there who are trying to be the voice of the progressive movement, the voice of change in the country. So I thank them, and since I'm thanking, I want to thank folks in advance for those who will decide to call 713-526-5738. And remember that here at KPFT, we also need to keep progressive radio on air.
That's right, absolutely. Hey, you said that you were at Netroots Nation, and that was the first time when you came back a year ago that we'd ever heard of Black Lives Matter.
Right.
You were the first to bring us the news. You were the first to show us the video. And you didn't just show us an excerpt. You showed us everything that happened. You showed the organization and how it was something that was planned, how it was so artfully done. Everyone else just showed us the anger, but you showed us how it was all put together.
I think that is important because I think groups like Black Lives Matter, they get a bad rap. Right now, the right is trying to categorize them as a terrorist organization. No, they're an organization that is trying to make a difference. And in fact, when I brought that issue to Netroots Nation, we didn't only do that. And let me just say that that stations like the importance of stations like KPFT, there are people who are around this station that were also a part of that movement over there in Arizona when it occurred. You know, so we had people from KPFT and other places that are activists that were out there with it. And what we try to do is let it be known that no, this organization is an important organization for these times, as well as they have been impactful. They changed the Bernie Sanders platform that night after having that action in the afternoon. They changed Hillary Clinton's platform overnight. Hillary Clinton never wanted to touch the name Black Lives Matter. Now it's an integral part of everything that she speaks about. So it's an impactful group, and it just shows that all of us engaging can actually make a difference. So we can.
And bravo. Bravo. Change can be made. You've shown that from the bottom up. It
Absolutely.
can happen. And I think that was one of the big interesting questions about, of course, the Bernie Sanders delegates who whether you were sad, whether you were mad, whether you were glad, they changed history. They
changed history. Absolutely. As a Bernie supporter, I wanted Bernie to win because I believe in the values that he stands for. Now, interestingly, in watching the faces of a lot of women, mostly baby boomers in that stadium, I couldn't help but feel happy for the feelings that I knew ultimately was going through a whole lot of these women, because for them, and I have to be empathetic to that, right? For them, they saw finally a woman that has a good possibility of holding the highest office in the land. So I think, in as much as all of the Bernie supporters are down because their person didn't get the nomination, the fact that a woman now has could potentially be the next president of the United States, we as a first world and advanced country, that we are one of the last ones to have a woman as president, I think speaks a lot, not only about ourselves, but a lot about the misogyny that still occurs in this country. So again, I have two feelings, right? I have to feel for the truth that why is it taking this long for a woman to be able to run the country? Now, we have some issues we know with Mademoiselle Clinton, we know that. But, we have to look, I think we have to be balanced in that.
Well, like it or not, she probably is the most powerful political woman in the nation.
Absolutely so.
Absolutely. And you can say, oh, well, gee, we've got women on the Supreme Court. Well, there are 3 bodies of government.
Absolutely.
Let's have women in all 3 of them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. How was your DNC experience?
Wow, that's all I can say. I went to the DNC in 2012 just for blogging as a media, but so I wasn't really in the spot where I was as a delegate in the Texas delegation. And I'll be honest with you, I was excited. It was exciting.
Did you wear a flag shirt?
No, I didn't. I am not that kind of flashy
Did
person.
You wear a hat?
That. I kind of stay very
Did you have neon
No.
You say, I'm for Bernie, please don't even think I'm not?
I'm an inconspicuous kind of a guy. I don't do all of that.
With a face for radio.
No, but that's what it is. A face for radio. I don't do that, all that kind of stuff. But I tell you what, it was fun sitting down there and then having all the big shot politicians from Texas and from Massachusetts and other places coming into the delegate.
Did they tell you what to do?
No, not really. They were actually quite nice,
Yeah?
Yeah, no, but and in fact, I thought they would have given the Bernie Sanders delegates a harder time, but I guess they had their marching papers. Be nice.
Be nice.
What's
Do
it
the Texan
like?
Yes.
I mean, we always hear about all the back rooms and all of the back things that are going on.
Right.
And I realized, unfortunately, or fortunately a little bit too late, that I actually had a friend who was a super delegate, even though she's not political necessarily,
Right.
from the great state of Colorado, where they've had lots of ups and downs, no matter how you like the
Yes.
political thing. But what was it like? I mean, is there really backroom machinations going on?
Yes, and in fact, the Bernie Sanders supporters felt a lot of it during the Rules Committee.
Yeah.
When they were at the Rules Committee, they all kind of shenanigans were going on to kind of quiet them down. But it so happened that the Bernie folks are they're persistent breed. They don't really take no for an answer, and when they don't get their way, they get pretty riled up. And nobody wants a riled up DNC, so a lot of times that kind of worked out, you know. So I mean, Bernie Sanders supporters didn't get all that they want. After all, it's a negotiation, and after all, they didn't win. But I mean, they got. I mean, when Hillary gave her speech at the end on Thursday, I thought it was Bernie Sanders speaking. You know, so I mean that speaks a lot of about how successful he was. But the DNC had great speakers. I mean, Reverend Barber from North Carolina and Moral Mondays. I mean, he gave a sermon in that auditorium that brought it home. Let me tell you, he brought the church, and I'm not a church guy, and he brought the church to that stadium, and you had, I mean, it was, I think he gave the most inspirational speech of everybody else, and the only person that came close to him in the delivery of a speech in her own form was Michelle Obama.
Yeah.
Michelle
That's great.
Obama
Wasn't she
had,
awesome?
oh my God, she had people next to, on both sides of me crying.
Yeah.
I mean, they were, her speech actually touched the heart. I don't know, Gerry, when we spoke, I think I told you that Wednesday, and I think what I told you is Michelle was able to speak to the heart, while all the other guys mostly were speaking to the head. She just came in there and she spoke the way the things that she needed to say, and it really touched the vast majority of that audience.
Yeah, it was really, I thought it was very, very impressive the way she was speaking, and the things that she said about her daughters and how it is to raise children in the White House, and especially for African American children.
Right.
How they, you know, how you guide them through that, to their life when every day they read or can read horrible things that people say or write about their father or their mother, and also about those girls themselves, you know. So,
Absolutely.
And I thought it was really, because he didn't really go after people or so. She was not getting nasty herself. But
Right.
she was really, I thought that was really powerful how she did that, and how she talked about that, how she did that, and I thought, wow.
Yeah. Now, the other thing about the DNCs, there are really two DNCs, right? There is a DNC inside of the.
Can you just give a sort of lineup of what happens on a certain day? Because it starts
Right.
on television at 4 p.m. but
Right.
What are you doing then the rest of the day?
It's interesting. During the whole day, you're going to panels and discussions. Now, I went to, you know, we're activists out here, so I went to a lot of activist panels. I went to a working families party conference where there's this new quasi party that formed in New York. In effect, it got de Blasio elected in New York. That is kind of migrating throughout the country right now. I think you know, in effect, they're trying to make it a party in its own right, and it's a pretty progressive party, and they're testing the waters in various different states. So I went to a panel that discussed that. I also went to a panel on racial and economic justice held by Vangelis, the previous president of the
he was wonderful.
Yes, he was.
His speech was great.
Absolutely. Now, he had a panel in which we had Rosario Dawson and Nina Turner. And anybody who listens to Nina Turner, who's one of Bernie Sanders' surrogate, knows that she's an impressive speaker. Nina Turner could run.
Is he a senator or Congress?
Nina Turner is a previous senator from Ohio. Okay, and she it's interesting because going forward, she has a following now. She has a constituency now. Bernie Sanders' constituency really is a Nina Turner constituency. So there's a good chance that this woman could run for national office. There's a good chance that she could run in any state for just about anything, and she could win. She gave an impressive discussion as far as economic justice and the different items that we needed to touch, whether it be employment, whether it be the minimum wage, the same topics that Bernie Sanders spoke about. But I tell you, an interesting thing is she does it better than Bernie Sanders, and she reaches people because, Bernie is very craft in the way he speaks and so forth. She knows how to reach people. So I foresee that going forward, that movement, she's probably going to be one of the leaders. Well, she's already one of the leaders in the movement, but I think she's going to be more a leader in the movement as we go forward. I also went to some other conferences that were more bread and butter. How are we going to move forward with a Hillary Clinton in the office? There is talk now about, we've actually formed a new organization, something similar to the you remember Obama's organization? What was it called again? Obama for America, OFA. Yeah, there's an organization that was formed under Obama called it once was called Obama for America, and I think they call it Organizing for America now. Well, this is now the Bernie Sanders branch of that has been formed. I don't quite remember the name of it right now, but the idea is to use the same concept as Branded New Congress, which will attempt to put 400 progressive candidates in every district, in every state, to run both on the congressional level and the senatorial level, which gives you a much better chance to get true progressive values within Congress. We know America is and folks, for those of you who don't quite realize it yet, if you forget about giving things names like liberal, progressive, Democrat, Republican, and you ask the values of what people actually want, most Americans are decidedly progressive, not conservative.
Okay, well, you're listening to Open Journal, and that's our guest, Egberto Willies. You just heard talking about American values. I'm Gerry van Bakel. I'm in for Dwayne Bradley.
And I'm Marlo Blue, and you are listening to Open Journal, and we are happy to have Egberto Willies right here with us, explaining it all, how politics can really and truly be done right, and we're thankful for all of that. So, you weren't one of the ones who left the convention.
No, I respect those who did what they felt in their hearts they needed to do. Personally, I felt that would not have been productive.
Right.
I think there are a lot of different ways to do things, and I like working through the process. Those who supported Bernie Sanders did their job. They worked hard. They got 46% of the votes. They got about 46% of the delegates. What that means is that we didn't win. Were there headwinds? Yes. Was the DNC doing everything possible to suppress Bernie Sanders? Yes. All those are true statements. Also, when Bernie Sanders went into the fray, he knew that was the reality. The establishment doesn't go down without fighting and kicking and using all tricks possible, dirty or otherwise. That was known. So, I think it was important for us to listen to the man who headed that campaign, and he suggested that people support Hillary Clinton. He also suggested that people didn't do the walkouts. He suggested that people didn't do some of the booing that occurred. And most of the Bernie Sanders supporters abided by his request. I think it is incumbent on those Bernie Sanders supporters who abided by this request to respect the supporters that hadn't, and to try to work with them to bring them around to a place where they are really working in the best interest of us all, and not in just feeling good about sticking it to somebody they don't like.
Sticking it.
Yeah. I think, and I think ultimately we'll get there, because Bernie Sanders supporters respect each other in as much as there are different viewpoints. And I think when we sit down together and talk and sit down together and itemize reasons why we're doing certain things the way we're doing, I think in the long run we'll get to them.
So Our Revolution, Bernie's new organization,
Yes.
is doing the grassroots work now.
Yes.
It's going back to the basics. It's saying, let's do this from a bottom-up situation.
Yes, and that is a must. And I think that is what a lot of us have to realize, right? We have to realize that it's not just about the election of the guy on the top, Bernie Sanders. We really have to go out there and do the work. We have to respect what the right wing and the Tea Party has done. And, you know, when instead of looking at what these guys have done from a negative perspective, I choose to look at it from a positive. What they've done is they have an ideology. And they took that ideology, and we know a lot of it is astroturf. I mean, we know the plutocracy is pushing them to some extent. But what they've done is they've worked on the precinct level, on the district level, on the state level. They've worked on all levels, and that is why they control most state legislatures, most of all these. They work. They don't only work during that time. They work through all times.
Well, we've got Egberto Willies right here in the house. We're going to be talking with him a little bit more. But first, it is 8:45 in the morning. Let's take another look at traffic with Patrick.
Thank you, Patrick, for that report. And welcome back to Open Journal. The current time is 8:46. We have, I think, a little bit more than 10 minutes to talk with our guest, Egberto Willies. My name is Gerry van Bakel. I'm in for Dwayne Bradley.
And I'm Marlo Blue. And Egberto, I got to ask you, I mean, you know, I want to go back to this question of grassroots again, because, again, today's August the 1st. Today's the day the open carry on campus law is actually being enacted on our public universities. And I need to we had a discussion with someone who is pro open carry. And they said, you know, I understand that people might be concerned that this may have just kind of, you know, snuck up on them or whatever else the words are that they said. But they're going about changing the rules all wrong. They need to go back to the basics like we did. We energized our base. We got people who were interested in having open carry. We made them get to the polls. You know, do you think that that's going to happen with our revolution?
That depends on us, right? I think all of us have to, those of us who, I always like to say, I don't want to sound conceited, but those of us in the know have to do that.
Yeah.
You know, we have to, just like those on the other side spoke to the hearts of people that made them go to the polls, we have to try to find a way to get there, to make the folks that think like us, which most of the people, we have to be able to get those guys to the polls. And that's where we have to work on a grassroots level, as you're alluding to before. We have to keep it. We have to keep it in front of their faces. We have a tendency when these things occur to get riled up, and then it dies out
And lose our energy.
after. We have to keep the energy up.
Yeah. It's not only that, because sometimes in this election cycle, people are just talking about electing a new president.
Right.
But there are so many more things at stake. It's you are voting for half of the Senate, I think.
Yeah.
And
the entire House.
Entire House of Representatives.
Right.
So I think that's and also some local elections are going on. So
right.
It's there are so much that you can vote for. It's not only about if you want to have Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump in the White House.
Absolutely.
It's also backing it up, because even if you have Hillary Clinton in the House or in the White House, but you don't have any majority in either the House or the Senate, then your president can't do that much. And if you have Donald Trump in the White House and you don't have a majority going with that, then it's really
right.
More important also to vote on those candidates.
And you know, it is well known that the politicians closer to you are the ones that have the most effect of you immediately. So I mean, people need to start. You know, your mayor, your city councilman, your commissioner, all those people, they have impact. But I tell you, you brought up something that is really important as far as who will be controlling the Congress and the Senate. And it is so important because for those people who think, well, their person isn't there and, you know, they don't want a Hillary or whatever, they have to remember certain things. I always say when you go to vote, don't only vote for yourself, also vote for your neighbor, your friend, and your family. And think about if we have all these policies that say things like, we must get rid of Obamacare now. I mean, it's not, you know, people like to say, oh, there are 20 million people that will lose their insurance. It's a lot worse than that. I mean, all those people with pre-existing condition revert back to the uninsured. And that's more than 20 million people. Yeah. That's most people that you know.
Well, I think 20 million people is already a lot.
Yes. Yeah. Think about it.
Well, let me ask you, I mean, you know, we've been through the RNC, we've been through the DNC, we've been through the Libertarian Convention,
right,
even though we didn't talk about it very much. And coming up next is the Green Party Convention right here in the Bio City. Your thoughts?
Well, look, first let me give a quick disclaimer. I did a test with a whole lot of my Green Party friends. And my Green Party friends turned out to be Democrats. I turned out to be a Green Party member.
That's funny.
I am the Democrat, and they're the Green Party members. Does that tell you something? Now,
yeah.
that...
You're in the wrong party.
No.
Who's paying attention?
So, interesting enough, what I think is I love the tenets of the Green Party. As you can see, I passed the test.
Yes, you do.
But I think that
Yay.
we are in a duopoly, whether we like it or not, and I think it is incumbent on most people to work, in my humble opinion, to work with something that's going to do results. Now, that's not to put a negative on the Green Party. I always think having a pushback, I think, is very important. So I support the Green Party as a pushback party right now, but I surely wish that it were a bit more organized, so that if it were to be a replacement party, that it would be taken more seriously by most. Not that it's not taken seriously, but that people would see it as a viable alternative. Until people see it as a viable alternative in the United States. Now, it's a viable alternative in a lot of other countries, you know, but in the United States, many do not see it as a viable alternative.
And of course, the Green Party Convention is actually, their full day is August the 6th, which is Saturday, but they're actually going from August the 4th on through the Saturday the 6th as well. So you can always find out more information. I think they are a little bit more open as to who can come into their party that's happening over at University of Houston.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party sure aren't open.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to get there for sure. But, so, big question, of course. The fall is coming upon us. We don't have that long now until it's November, and until it's actually Election Day. What will you be doing between now and Election Day?
Between now and Election Day, as best that I can, I will be urging people to vote in their own interest, depending on where I am, because some radio you can say certain things and on other radios you can't.
Now you're saying words that kind of sound like, what was that senator's name? Ted Cruz was saying, vote in your best interest.
Vote in your best interest. And voting in your best, what I will try to do, both on my different radio shows, is try to articulate what we all know is in our best interest, and lay out different candidates' plans so that folks can really look at their values, look at what they need, look at their wants, and see which candidates best fulfill that need.
We're always happy to hear about people getting what they need and what they want.
Absolutely so.
So what's going to be on Thursday's Politics Done Right?
You know, it's still in flux because the DNC is definitely going to be a part of the discussion. But I want to
imagine that.
Yeah, but what I want to try to do, I want to get I was thinking about getting a Bernie person, a Hillary person, and a nobody person, somebody that doesn't
An
want.
undecided. Who do you
That
find
sounds a little bit negative.
Yeah, I shouldn't sound negative.
are at KPFT, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Well, Egberto, we love it when you come and join us today. We really do. Thank you so much for being a part of the KPFT family. Thank you for being our eyewitness onto the scene. We appreciate that more than you know.
Well, I'm always honored to be with y'all. You know that. This is such a common show,